Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and welcome to the show. Today is the Tuesday, the 21st of July, 2020. And, silver is taking off on a moon trip to Mars. Let's just do a little review of what's happening right now. Let's talk about what I said in a few of my other videos on this particular channel about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general, and what's happening right now with gold and silver. The Fed and all the central banks, the European Central Bank, they just did a huge stimulus package. Guess what's coming to the United States? Full out modern monetary theory. What they're in right now is called MP3. And this is what they're doing right now. And it's a lead-in to full out modern monetary theory. And basically, what modern monetary theory is that everybody out there can be wealthy and happy and healthy and everything else. Just the government just prints all the money and just keeps distributing it to all the people. Nobody has to work anymore. I mean, we know in the real world it doesn't work this way. But this is Keynesianism to its ultimate extent. And what it's ultimately going to lead to, as we all know, it's going to lead to hyperinflation. That's where this is going. And we got like 28 million Americans that are out of work right now. This is enough people that if they don't do something, they're going to run into massive problems. And they know this. It's probably already in the plans for universal basic income. This is the next step. This is where they have to go, basically. There's no other way around it. And they're going to have to keep interest rates down near zero. They can't let them rise. Inflation now is baked into the cake. And it's going to, once it starts to run away, there's nothing the central banks can do. I'll tell you what. It's a precarious position that we're in. The central banks now are trapped. But I told you guys in a few shows ago, if you remember weeks ago, I told you what's going to happen with silver and gold. That when the price starts to move up in the SLV and GLD categories in the paper gold markets, we're going to see a rush into the physical. And with silver in particular, there's not enough silver to go around in the real physical silver. I mean, it's just the mines aren't producing any right now. I've done shows and shows on this quite recently about how mining production is slumping. Ore grades are going downhill. What an ore grade basically is when they dig the silver, out of the mine, how much silver do they get per ton? It's dropping drastically. It's taking more and more fuel to get it out of the ground. Do you know how labor intensive it is to get an ounce of silver? Honest to gosh, guys. They got to dig like a ton of earth out of the ground, and it comes out like in rocks, big rocks. And they have to run them first through a big rock crusher, and then they have to run them down conveyor belt into another rock crusher, and then yet into another rock crusher, and they have to keep crushing them until it's powder. And then they have to put it in big tanks and stir it and add chemicals to filter the silver out, and then they have to run it through smelting ovens. It's a very labor-intensive process. All of this labor requires fuel. The thing is the mines too have been an awful lot of the mines now are being what's the word I'm looking for it where they're taken over by the governments, and production's dropping off because anything that becomes what's the word I'm looking for? It's on the tip of my tongue right now. When something becomes privatized by the government, gets taken over by the government. It's not in private hands anymore. It's trying to think of the word. It's just slipping me right now. But you guys know what I'm talking about. These mines. And the government do not produce like private enterprise always has a higher production. You have to remember the former Soviet Union, how they'd build high apartments and stuff? Have you ever been over to Eastern Europe in what used to be the former Soviet Union and went into these apartment buildings and stuff and seen the work? It's because the workers working under socialism, they would just do their job, but they didn't have any pride in what they were doing, really. They just kind of slopped it together. Like if they plastered a wall, they just slopped the plaster on the wall. They wouldn't make it real smooth or anything. It's just, this is just the way it is. It's like rickety. And this is the way when they take these mines over by the government, is the workers in there now are subsidized by the government and everything, and they don't have that incentive that they do under a free market. And so what's happening is you're seeing the amount of silver that comes out of these mines decrease. This is an ongoing thing where silver ore grades are dropping off. Mines aren't producing as much silver as they used to, but demand's going through the roof. So what do you think is going to happen ultimately? Because if you go back into the 1980s, 1970s, we see slumping supplies. Now, there's a difference in the supply of silver out there. There's a supply of silver that people have bought up and is in private hands, and then there's the silver that's ready for delivery, silver that's ready for sale. These are two different amounts altogether. The silver that's actually available for sale is very, very short supply right now. And what we're seeing, we're going to see a sudden surge in demand, a massive surge in demand. People are going to get scared and they're going to try to buy silver. Massive amounts of people, massive amounts of money. It's going to disappear. So then this is what I was saying in shows ago. It's going to disappear. And that's just the next step. I said the price would go up and then the silver would disappear. You panic to buy it. And that panic is going to then extend into gold. You're going to see the gold stripped off the shelves. Both of them are going to disappear. You're not going to be able to buy the physical. But then there's going to be tons of money out there that's looking for investment, looking for a home, because the Fed and the central banks are pumping money out like it's hand over fist right now. They're creating new money. The printers are running full steam ahead. So you got all this new fresh money coming into the system, this liquidity just pouring in from the end of the financial system, the Wall Street, record profits. But all these guys, they know the same thing Ray Dalio knows. He says cash is trash. They're starting to look at the dollar. It's not a safe haven anymore. They can't move into bonds, treasury bonds, because there's no yield. The stock market's already oversold, so where's all this money going to filter into? Gold and silver markets are extremely small and extremely tight in the real physical supply. That's going to disappear. And then there's still going to be massive volumes of money chasing asset class out of the dollar. What's left? What asset class is left after all the gold and silver are gone? The physical's gone. They're not going to buy SLV and GLD. Bitcoin starts to look like then the next target. Bitcoin would have then a target painted on its back that says, buy me. And what we're talking about here is trillions. So, what I would tell you guys is, I'm not going to tell you guys because I'm not allowed to give financial advice. But I can tell you what I'm doing. I got a little piece of a Bitcoin. And I'm hanging on to that. I am HODL in that piece for all I'm worth. Because, that's all it really might take in the end. If we get a wealth transfer into 3 asset classes that could come fairly swiftly, because it's one of these snowball type effects. Once it gets rolling, then the final stage is it's a giant snowball going down the hill, gathering steam, and it's growing bigger and bigger. Like wet snow. Have you ever seen how a snowball works? They when they're rolling over, they grab more snow underneath them, and they get bigger and bigger suddenly. It's a certain effect. It actually, the effect is down to that thing of uncontrolled growth. It's multiples of itself. And it just keeps exponentially moving forward. And this whole thing could go exponential. And the final stages goes really, really fast of exponential. And that's what this thing's on. It's on an exponential. The money supply is going up exponentially. And when this whole thing moves, it's going to start to move suddenly. And the final stages of it might only take a year or less. So everything I'm talking about might happen within the next year or so. And I know it took years to get to this point, but what we're talking about here is no less than a wealth transfer out of the fiat currencies, which everything's priced in. All of the things in the world, your car, your house, everybody's car, their house, businesses, everything in the world will all still be there when the fiat currencies collapse. Everything that was priced in fiat. But suddenly, because fiat currencies aren't worth anything anymore, they've went into a hyperinflation. All that wealth that was stored in fiat currency suddenly gets transferred into some other asset class. Now, if there's only one place to go, one narrow little door out, which is gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies, what you could be looking at is all of the wealth in the world, everything, moving into these three little asset classes. I know it's kind of hard to fathom it, but the thing is everything's set in place for it to happen. You know? It's kind of hard to get your head around it. And that's because we as humans do not understand exponential. It doesn't work in our minds. Somehow we have a brain fog or a brain block that blocks us from understanding how exponential function works. But it's very real, and it can do unbelievable things. Unbelievable things can happen in an exponential function. And that's basically what we're talking about here. Bitcoin has been on an exponential growth curve ever since its inception in 2009 until now. It hasn't stopped. Yes, it's had its ups and downs. But the overall curve is an exponential curve. And, you know, there's no reason to assume that that's going to stop. So I know all of this is hard to get your brain around, but it actually, it's hard for me to get my brain around it, to think everything, all of the assets in the entire world being transferred over into hard money assets that there's only a few of. But where else could it go? If the dollar goes into a hyperinflation and all of the other fiat currencies follow suit, then everybody is going to be in a big rush to get out and try to get into something where they can hold their value. And so I've been talking about this for a long time. And all of a sudden today, I've been watching the silver price, and it's just like amazing. Wow, look at this. Oh, what the heck's going on? Wow, look, here it goes. It's a rocket ship to Mars. And the things I've been talking about all this time, how it might jump $1 in a day or $3 in a day. Of course, we haven't got I don't think we quite got $3. We got like, in the last couple of days, been going up like, oh, goodness gracious, people. It's exciting times we live in, And I think this bug out there has only made things move along a little bit faster. So I think it would have all happened anyway. Bug or no bug. Anyway, listen, guys, I've rattled on enough. It's exciting times. Be a HODL Army. Be smart. Bye-bye, guys. And give me a thumbs up. And like and subscribe on my videos, and everything, all that good stuff. Bye-bye, guys.